So in the last number of decades, our world has gotten smaller. And I don't mean the size of it, but I mean we are much more aware of what's happening in other cultures than maybe we were before. There's a lot more travel, a lot more movement. With thanks to social media, we can immediately kind of be anywhere in the world that we want to be. And so it's resulted in more overlap between different faiths, different religions. Now realistically, this has always been the case where people cross paths, but it's kind of heightened a little bit. And so we often receive questions not just about other denominations or others who are trying to follow Jesus, just types of churches per se, but other religions. So we got a question that says, so do all three major world religions have Yahweh as their beginning base? Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And then second part of the question, what about variants, or we might even say cults, to proclaim Jesus but deviate, like Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, these sorts of things? Two really good questions in here. And the answer to the first question is yes. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity all have the same roots. And if you're not familiar with the word or the name Yahweh, it's a name that God revealed. It's a Hebrew word, a Hebrew phrase meaning I am, or I am who I am. And it's the name that God revealed to Moses in the Old Testament. It's talked about in Exodus chapter 3 as a way of identifying, I am the one who is, and I am the one that you will come to know as you follow me. And this name is, we pronounce, sometimes it's written Jehovah because of different language things, but probably the best pronunciation is Yahweh. And yes, these three faiths, they're often called the Abrahamic faiths because they draw their roots from God's call to Abraham to leave his country and his father's household and his land and to go to a new place. And God was going to give him a new family and through him bless all the families in the world. Judaism draws its roots to Abraham. Islam does, and so does Christianity. So yeah, there are some important similarities between these because in certain ways we share histories. Now, at certain points they differ, no question. They're not the same faiths. We're not talking about worshiping the same God in the same way. Because we as Christians, for instance, believe that God revealed himself not only in the Old Testament, but also in the New Testament writings. Muslims would believe that God revealed himself ultimately in the Quran, and that all those who came before were prophets leading up to the great prophet Muhammad. And so there's a different holy book. And depending on the different forms of Judaism, there's a belief that, the Old Testament story, sometimes still looking for an ending, other times found its sort of mediating point or conclusion in the teachings of the rabbis. And so we don't all end up in the same place, but yes, we start from the same place. The other question about groups that claim to follow Jesus but deviate, what the two mentioned were Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a similar but different thing. Now, these are groups that claim Jesus, but we believe, and in my opinion, the official teachings of these groups, they add to Scripture things that cannot be added to Scripture. Is not okay to add requirements, to add beliefs. We believe that God revealed himself fully and finally and authoritatively and truthfully in the Old and New Testaments. And so we don't need another book. We don't need another revelation. We don't need new rules. We believe that these things are actually so far beyond what Jesus intended for his church that we should avoid them, that we should not, say, oh, no difference between us and so. Well, we're equally sinful as all people, no question. But in terms of the belief systems, in terms of the teachings, and in terms of the books that we regard as sacred, there are important differences between these two. So for us as Christians, as those who follow Jesus, we do look back on the story of the Old Testament as our beginnings, and we believe that it found its fulfillment in Jesus. The promise God made to Abraham, the revelation of God's character to Moses, all of this comes to a culminating point in Jesus. All the plan was designed to get us here. And from here, this one singular point, Jesus' death and resurrection, now we take this message of salvation into all the world. That's how we understand our faith in relationship to different groups that believe similar but different things.